Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Little Hand says it's time to rock and roll.
Bring the noise.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to Wildcard Cinema, episode 2. Joining me, good friends, Mark and Greg. For those of you who are along with us on the journey, hope you enjoyed the first episode. If you are new to us, episode 0 is a good reference point for it, but here's the basics of the show. We each have a smattering of random movies that we pick from, that we have on a jar or a hat or whatnot. We all pick one at random every 2 weeks, and we go through the movies, we review them, we come back here, and then we decide what our stance is on them, and then the person who chose them gives the reason as to why they chose the movie. Dealer's choice as to whether they show it at the beginning or the end of it. So, yeah. So, how are you guys doing? How's your week been?
Doing okay.
Yeah, hanging in there.
Anything exciting?
Not a whole lot.
Oh God, damn! This coffee is actually pretty damn good.
I could have used the coffee today, actually.
I got a freaking. It's a dollar store. Like it was like these like single serve, not single serve, but like small batches. It's a Jim Beam bourbon vanilla coffee.
Oh, nice.
And it's fucking amazing, especially for $1.
Yeah, right.
Can't beat that.
Exactly. But yeah, so yeah, it's been a decent week here. Wifey took one of her vacation weeks, so she's been home watching the Olympics, and took a little day trip a couple days ago, and I'm dying, but that happens. Oh boy. Okay, so let's start off here. Let's see. Last week we did Greg first and then Mark, so this week I think we should do Mark's first.
Okay, sounds good.
So, all right, so let me scroll over to what I need here. So Mark's choice was the movie Tourist Trap from 1979. So let's pull up the trailer and see what we got here.
Every year, hundreds of young people travel the country and disappear. God help those who get caught in the tourist trap. Tourist Trap, where beautiful young people looking for excitement are tricked, terrorized, trapped. Let go! Tourist Trap. Shock you can see. Terror you can feel. Heart-stopping suspense that makes this the nightmare that never ends. Something crazy's going on at the Tourist Trap.
So yeah. So just before we actually get into this, I need to give the standard warning to anyone, and that would be the obligatory. And I'm an idiot. Spoilers ahead. Because, I mean, granted, the movies that we're talking about, especially today, are all over 30 years old. So if you haven't seen them, sorry if we're spoiling it for you now, but hopefully you'll still actually be interested in afterwards. So, dealer's choice, Mark, you going to tell us at the beginning or the end why you chose this?
I'm going to tell you at the beginning.
Okay.
All right. The reason I chose Tourist Trap is because I love this movie. And I think it's underrated and underseen. And I think it deserves some more exposure and deserves to be talked about. I love Chuck Connors as Mr. Slauson and his brother. I love Jocelyn Jones as Molly. I love that it's creepy and surreal and can be really unsettling. And it just has a lot going for it. And I think it really, if you've never heard of it, I think it's worth a watch. And that's why I chose it.
Awesome. Yeah, I pulled up some stats on it. So yeah, so this was directed by David Schmeller, starring Chuck Connors, Jocelyn Jones, and Tanya Roberts. Tanya Roberts had the most success after this movie. She went on to be a Bond girl. Mm-hmm. It was done on a budget of only $350,000. Box office totals couldn't really be found because of its limited release when it first came out. What I did learn though is, so this was really a groundbreaking movie in the fact that it was a slasher film, but it got a PG rating from the MPAA.
Correct. Yep. Very odd.
So because of that, it got bought up for syndication for a lot of like late night TV movies in the 80s.
Yep.
Which was actually the only way you could see it because it wasn't released on home video until 1998.
Wow.
Yeah. Because I remember like I would see this randomly like on Channel 20 used to do a horror movie in the afternoon on Saturdays, and once in a while they would play Tourist Trap, and it was never at the video store. Yeah, its first release on VHS was the same time it got its first release on DVD. It was in 1998, and it didn't get a Blu-ray release until 2021.
Wow.
Yeah. I've got some other little tidbits about it, but Greg, what's your thoughts?
Well, I will agree with Mark. It is probably underseen. I will disagree that it's probably underrated. I used to do like single line Letterboxd reviews a lot. And if I did one for this, I would just write House of Whack.
I was going to get to that too.
Yeah. So remember the last episode I said a movie like Texas Chainsaw showed you what a director could be with a low budget. This movie does not show that, I don't think. Although that's not entirely true. There are some good shots in this movie. I do think I don't know if it's animatronics or actually people in some of these mannequins and stuff that move around, but
I think there's people inside.
Yeah, okay, it was people doing all manual puppetry.
Yeah, that stuff, like I say, kudos. It looks pretty good. Even on the trailer, you saw the stuff fly out of the cabinet. Mm-hmm. Some good technical work there, but yeah, I mean, obviously super low budget. You can tell the whole time. I did have a few things. It does have one of the weirdest scores I've ever heard in a horror movie, I think.
Yes.
The opening credits theme, it felt like it belonged in a Peter Sellers comedy.
I wrote down that it sounds like Kenny G composed the score but didn't use a saxophone at all. So
white man jazz.
Yeah, it was so strange. I don't know.
It was unsettling though, which I think added to it in a way.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is definitely something wildly different. There's a supernatural almost element to some of this, and it's a spin on the slasher, obviously, but it definitely spins it. I thought the best acting was during the plaster death that they show in the trailer.
Oh yeah.
So definitely that was pretty good. But I'll not to crush it or anything. I mean, it wasn't horrible, but some of it was just I don't know. The one girl is almost like she looks infatuated with the old man. Like the minute she meets him, I don't know why.
Yeah.
I don't get that at all. It's not like he was like a jacked old dude or something. Or
I mean,
I just think she
Chuck
found
Connors
him
was pretty
charming.
jacked.
I thought she just like looked at him as like this charming older man, and there was nothing like beneath that. It was just like, oh, I like this guy, kind of a thing. That's how
I just saw with like the scene before that and kids, you know how a lot of these movies back then are kids getting horny and whatever else, and she sees this guy and she's like, ooh, like eyes open up. I'm like, all right. And I thought the killer was kind of obvious the entire time, but I mean, I guess that doesn't really make a difference.
I mean, so they actually did. What do you call it? They did try to trick the audiences right off the bat. Despite the official billing, there's an actor there's an actor credited as Shyler Colby,
the director's son.
Yeah, it's a pseudonym. It's a pseudonym in portmanteau. It's actually Chuck Connor's son's first name, and devised to mislead the audience from discovering the twist ending. But yeah, I think it was Chuck Connor's son and the director's son's names together.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to go about it. I do say I would like to name something in my life. I don't know what it would be. If I would, if I wanted to go through the incredibly painful process of renaming my Wi-Fi router, I would go with Slosson's Lost Oasis.
Yes.
So yeah, I think that's about it. I did look up the director. He went on to direct Puppet Master, which probably would be his biggest thing.
I actually had a note about, because the ending there, the parts of what do you call it? The two parts of the ending, the part in the cabin and the part in the Jeep. The part in the cabin you can see was kind of like used later on at the end of Maniac. And the Jeep scene was straight out of Puppet Master. It was either Puppet Master or Puppet Master 2, where the chick becomes a puppet at the end and she's driving the Jeep with the puppets in it. Like, that's exactly what I first thought.
And lastly, he directed 6 episodes of Red Shoe Diaries. So put that in the IMDb column. So yeah, it's kind of fun to watch at like midnight and just kind of.
Yeah. So apparently the original screenplay didn't feature telekinetic powers, according to Larry Carroll, who wrote it. The idea was proposed by Charles Band, the producer. He said it should be implemented into the script, and Schmeller says he drew inspiration from the surrealist films of Jodorowsky and Louis Buñuel, as well as the observance of store mannequins in a JCPenney department store.
Certainly a way to go about it.
Right. It's just funny to see this.
I think the telekinesis really works. Like, it definitely feels like too many cooks working on the screenplay, kind of. But I think it works. And, to its credit, Stephen King loves this movie.
Yeah, he does. He does.
So, take that.
There's a whole bit about that in Eli Roth's History of Horror series. Like, one of the episodes, Tourist Trap gets mentioned, and Stephen King talks about it. Like, yeah, he loves Tourist Trap and he loves Maniac. But yeah, I think that this would actually, what did I say? The opening kill scene is still just as creepy, no matter how many times I've seen it. Just like the laughing and the animatronics. The puppetry. Sorry, not the animatronics. I think this would make a great drive-in double feature with Motel Hell.
Oh, I can see that.
Like early genre slasher, both with a retired Western actor as the villain, with Chuck Connors and Rory Calhoun. I think that would work nicely. But yeah, there was an article came out like 4 months ago that supposedly there's talks to remake this movie now. Which, number one, I don't think it needs to be remade because it's a staple of its time, and number two, it already pretty much was remade with the 2006 House of Wax.
House of Wax, yeah.
Yeah. That's what
should not be remade. I think it's the era in which it's made is part of its charm. It's right. Just leave it as it is.
I always think the way to go about remaking a movie, is to just not remake it, but
Yeah.
like Joe said, House of Wax.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think you look at like the Child's Play reboot with Aubrey Plaza, which is awful, and then you look at Megan, which is Child's Play, but it works way better. So just make something new that's somewhat similar.
Right. Just leave this one alone, because I mean the part of the reason this like has like a slight cult following is because number one, it was done on such a low budget. Number two, it was a midnight movie that you could only see on TV because you couldn't see it on home video. Like that's the charm of it. You go and try to remake it now, even with like a $5 million budget, everything's going to get lost. And just, I'm sorry, but the TikTok generation's not going to understand what the fuck a tourist trap is. They're not going to know what the fuck Route 66 is. None of that. Like, that's for millennial and Gen Xers who like watch YouTube videos of people who like travel Route 66 and show all the abandoned cities now. Like, we've got enough of that already. So yeah, it should remain untouched. But yeah, like I said, I like watching this movie every once in a while. Like, it was already in my library, so I didn't have to go searching for it. But if people do want to watch it, let me pull up that graphic. There's actually a plethora of ways to watch this movie. There we go. So it is currently available to stream for free on Tubi, Peacock, the Roku channel, Pluto TV, the Roku channel, and on YouTube. There's also like video on demand you rent for ways, but I mean, there's 6 options right there where you don't have to pay. So why would you pay? And I just realized that there's a graphic that's missing from here that I need to add in.
I also recommend watching this movie on Shudder, because you can watch the Joe Bob Briggs Last Drive-In version of it.
Yeah, well, because that's an on-off. Sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not. That's why I didn't put Shudder on.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but I mean, because they sometimes they take off a few months for the rights on that and stuff. But the beautiful thing is, there's the Just Joe Bob category where you can find just his segments from each of those, every time he's done a movie. And it says like where like the breaks are in it. So you could like kind of split screen it if you wanted to with that. Yeah. Yeah. I was just, Joe Bob last night did Death Game,
Nice.
which 1977 home invasion movie that definitely inspired funny games. But that's a story for another day. All right. So it looks like we all kind of enjoyed that for what it was at times. There was no hatred, which is a good thing. Just before we move on to our next movie, I need to pay the bills. Where are you? I have too many things on this. There we are. All right, let me just take that away. Get back here. I would just like to say that this episode of Wildcard Cinema is brought to you by our friends at EpicShirts.ca. If you're looking for some decent shirts, and they do them in short sleeve, long sleeve, hoodie as well. Nice little Canadian company. They cover everything from movies to TV to pro wrestling to anime to MMA, just running the gamut of a lot of things. They're a nice little upstart company. If you go there at EpicShirts.ca, if you use the link down below, or you go to your checkout, we use the promo code Full Circle Radio, all one word, and you will receive 10% off your order. And that is every order, not just your first. So that's EpicShirts.ca. We don't just make shirts, we make epic shirts. And looks like we'll move on, speeding right along today. So the next movie is Greg's choice, which was Gremlins 2, The New Batch. Let me pull that one up. No, you're the wrong one.
Remember the last time we told you not to feed them after midnight? We told you to keep them away from the light. And the most important warning of all, we told you to never, ever get them wet. You didn't listen.
They're mutating.
Sir, is the building on fire?
No, that's a false alarm.
Are you trying to panic New York City?
Absolutely not. So the monsters are real? I didn't say that.
Gremlins 2. The new batch.
Now, was that civilized? No, clearly not. Fun, but in no sense civilized.
I'm sensing a theme here within the show with Greg and puppet-related movies.
Yeah.
Random.
So before we first start off, that was Gremlins 2. The new batch was released in 1990, directed by the very talented Joe Dante, starring Zach Galligan, Phoebe Cates, John Glover, Robert Picardo. It had a budget of $40 million. It did a box office draw of $41.5 million. So it didn't quite make back its money after the marketing campaign. However, I'm sure they made up for it in merchandising. So, Greg, dealer's choice. You're going to tell us at the beginning or the end why you chose this movie?
I was originally going to go first, but because Mark already did, I'll wait.
Okay. All right. So I guess I'll just jump in. I've always loved this movie. I love both Gremlins movies. I think I have a little bit of affinity more for this one just because I think it's because I didn't get to watch it as much as the first one, because I had the VHS of the first one and I wore it out, and I never got the VHS of the second one. I'm not sure why. I think it was just by the time 1990 rolled around, I think it's because we moved. And so there was more focus on, moving to the new house and getting everything done there, that, getting videos and stuff just fell by the wayside. So I could only catch it when it was on HBO. I remember renting it the first weekend it came out. But that's about it. But yeah, I've always liked this. I think Joe Dante really flexed his muscles as much as he could with this. Thanks to this movie, John Glover will always be Daniel Clamp to me, no matter what he's in. People associate him with Lionel Luthor from Smallville or the Hitman from Payback. He's always Daniel Clamp to me. I don't know why. I've got other notes, but Mark, your thoughts?
I love this movie. I haven't seen it many times, and rewatching it was an absolute joy. It's just such a charming movie. It's silly. It's subversive. It's like Joe Dante took everyone's expectations for a normal traditional sequel to Gremlins and basically just said, suck it.
Yeah.
And I love everything about this movie. And my favorite part of the movie, to kind of piggyback on what you're saying, Joe, Daniel Clamp. John Glover is so funny in this role. I took a bunch of notes because I was just writing down all my favorite lines.
Yep.
And I'm trying to find my favorite one. I like the part where Clamp is he's wandering around his swanky office up on the top floor, completely bored, just twirling around in his chair with nothing to do because he's totally useless. And he calls his secretary up and just goes, let's do some memos. That was one of my favorite. And also, just real quick, another one of my favorite Clamp moments was then the Gremlins are starting to run amok in the building, and Clamp turns on the TV, and there's Uncle Fred dressed as in his Dracula costume in the Clamp lab, and the Gremlins are absolutely running amok, destroying this guy's property. And after watching it, there's a beat, and then his only response is, Dracula?
Yep.
This guy is just he's the crown jewel of the movie, in my opinion.
Yeah, because he could have played that character in so many ways, because he was obviously an amalgamation of Trump and Ted Turner.
Really, I didn't get that.
But he could have played it a lot more like ruthless and cold, but he feels it's like you can still tell there's that little bit in there, but he plays it where he's more aloof and still has a human side to him. It's kind of misplaced, but he ends up finding it by the end of the movie, which is a good positive for it. Yeah, one of the notes I had was I wrote down a couple of notes myself, but I think they maybe tried a little too hard to market to the younger audience right off the bat with the opening with Bugs and Daffy.
Yeah, I didn't get that at all. It was just you're expecting a sequel to Gremlins. All right, you can be subversive, but he literally just showed a Looney Tunes cartoon, and they're Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck are just there doing like a 5-minute bit.
Yeah.
And I actually was reading about this. That bit was actually longer than the original cut, and they made him cut it down because test audiences were like, "Okay, dude, where's the Gremlins now? Like, what is this?"
Right. And but that also, this marks the first time Bugs and Daffy have appeared on a motion picture without being voiced by Mel Blanc.
Oh yeah, it was Jeff. What's his name? I follow him on Instagram. He's a great.
Yeah, because Mel Blanc was, very much. He was. I think it was like right before he passed, because I remember he was.
Yeah, that's around the time he passed.
He did a little bit of voiceover work for Roger Rabbit, and that was the last time he did anything.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Couple of little plot holes that get to me to this day. So Billy and Phoebe Cates moved from Kingston Falls over on the West Coast over to New York, and they said that he's been there all this time. He hasn't gotten a raise. Why wouldn't he have known to visit Wing's shop if he knew that it was NYC Chinatown where his dad got Gizmo in the first one?
True.
And it feels odd that nobody came to check on Gizmo after Mr. Wing died. Like not even like the little kid from the first one. I'm not saying obviously you've got this mythical creature and it's not going to be like widely known, but still you've got Chinatown as a community. You would think somebody would know. And the only other part there that kind of gets to me is, how did Gizmo walk outside before getting caught without dying?
The whole part of them getting Gizmo into the movie doesn't make a lot of sense. Whole thing. I mean,
it's like
tearing down a building, not killing him somehow.
Right. Yeah. And he comes outside, it's like it's daytime and he's just walking down the street. It's like, look at what we were able to do with our animatronics. It's like, yeah, but the sun's out, bro. Shouldn't he be dead?
Yep.
And they went a little overboard on the punny names in this movie.
True.
That's like the twins there, or Martin and Lewis, and Christopher Lee played Dr. Catheter, and it's just like a little much.
Grown.
So much in this movie that I didn't even notice either of those things, because there's a lot flying at you.
Yeah. I think it was because I hadn't noticed at all, but the fact of how much they were aping on certain things in the 80s and just getting as meta as possible. Right. Even Clamp's book cover rips off Art of the Deal when they're like, you can pick up his book. I was like, holy shit, I just realized that. And the whole part where Robert Picardo comes up and he's like, he's like, violation, this, that, and the other thing. I've worked in several offices exactly like this, and years later, scenes like this, they hit a lot harder. Because I'm like, I've been in heartless environments like that where it's like, oh, you got a picture of your family? No, get that down or you're fucking fired. Oh.
And Robert Picardo, he's great in that. I love everything he does. He's in every single Joe Dante movie.
Mm-hmm.
Even the Explorers, he's one of the aliens.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. Explorers. That's another underrated movie. I love I guess it's because it was just public domain, because you see it, you especially that clip, you see it used so many times everywhere. The clip that Uncle Fred's doing, and it's Octoman. I was just like, because what was it? Riff Tracks did that last year. Went and saw it, and I was just like, it's always that one scene of Octoman coming out of the RV that they use everywhere, but every time like you see it as a clip on TV, it's like under a different name. It's like, because like that, yeah, I swear that must have been like public domain right away. One of the errors that I found is in the genetics lab where they're going around showing the things, and they show the guy walking by that's got the cow with the headset on so it can read its minds, and it's a male voice saying, "I love giving milk." I'm like, but that's a female cow. Like it's either a male cow giving milk or like up, and just like, and the problems start arising because just like the first movie, Gizmo just can't stay in one fucking place. It's like, dude, stay in the drawer. Nope.
Yeah.
And I don't know if anyone realizes this, but I remember this. This is one of the things that's like drilled into my brain of the Mogwais that first come out, the first group of Gremlins that come out, they like, thanks to like the merchandising stuff, they all had names. And I don't know if people actually realize that.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah. Mohawk, Daffy, Lenny, and George.
Oh.
Daffy was the one that sounded like Daffy Duck laughing. The one with the buck teeth was Lenny, and the angry looking one that looks like he should be holding a cigar was George. They made him look like George Burns.
Nice. Can I also say that the Gremlin voiceover vocalizations, they really started to crack me up after a while. They are so nutty. I just can't imagine being in the recording booth with the voiceover actors doing that. I was watching it, and there's one sequence where the cross-eyed gremlin is just cackling, and it goes on for like 3 solid minutes.
Yeah.
And I had to like turn it down because I had the volume up because I thought my neighbors were going to think I was some sort of weirdo laughing, cackling like that.
Yeah, that's like one of my favorite scenes to this day still in that movie is when she's feeding Daffy and Billy comes home and they're talking because he's like, yeah, something's going on. We got to do it. And he's got the little Hostess cupcake and he's just like, boom, right in his face. Like, I just laugh at that every time. But also like Phoebe Cates, like, I'm sorry, but how, like, Daffy looked nothing like Gizmo. How could you not tell that wasn't him?
Yeah, that was kind of dumb.
Like, I know you got like the PTSD from the first movie and from your dad and from Abraham Lincoln, but still, like.
What do you guys think about how meta this movie got on itself? There's a scene where Phoebe Cates is launching into another dramatic, tragic monologue.
Lincoln's birthday, yeah.
Yeah, and it's lit the same way as the first movie. It's a direct parody, and just as she's getting into it, Zach Galligan just stops her and goes, "Honey, I really don't think we have time for this," and whisks her out of the scene.
Yep.
Yeah, pretty brilliant.
Yep.
Yeah. I have to say, I admire them going just all balls out with all the mutations in the lab.
Oh,
however, HD is not kind to the bat scene when Mr. Futterman's fighting the bat gremlin outside. Yep. HD is not good to it. It's like I was like, oh god, this looks like I'm watching Q the Winged Serpent. Like like where Larry Cohen did the shit in reverse and he was supposed to like give them the stuff but he shot the scenery first and so it didn't match. But yeah. But I have to say, Dick Miller's redemption story in this is great, but I would have liked a little more of it. Mm-hmm. Another Easter egg I noticed that I had never noticed before was the scene right where Marla gets caught in the web and Phoebe Cates comes and finds her. The sign on the door for what there was Vectorscope Labs, which is an Interspace reference, which is another Joe Dante movie. I was like, holy shit, Vectorscope.
Dante universe.
Yep, exactly. Oh yeah. I'm not sure why I wrote this. I probably because I was watching this late at night. But yeah, because it was with the female gremlin, and I said gremlin boobs are way creepier than duck boobs. Comparing it to Howard the Duck.
Right.
It feels like something was cut in the third act after the Phantom of the Opera bit.
Yeah, the pretty abrupt.
It's like because they're doing all these flashes going back and forth with them singing New York, New York, and the girl gremlin comes up and then they do the Fan of the Opera sequence, then it goes back and it's like it feels like there was a scene that was there that was cut for time because it just feels like kind of choppy because they're inside and they don't know that the sun's getting covered on the outside, and they're like, if they get out and it gets rained on, I'm like, but they don't know that because the covers are up and they can't see that. Like it feels like there was something that was just not there.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. The practical effects for the final kill scene, they still hold up.
Oh yeah,
with all the melting and stuff. Like for everything, like for the bat scene not looking great, the practical effects in the end scene are great, and they still keep going meta right to the end with the freaking Wicked Witch of the West and all that shit. Mm-hmm. And here's I think the reason that this movie didn't do as financially well as they thought. I mean, number one, they gave him a huge budget, so of course he's going to use it. But I think it's because they didn't know how to market this correctly, because they did a whole bunch of toys and coloring books and all that shit for the kids. But every time I saw clips or like on Good Morning America or something like that, where they would be I remember Phoebe Cates being interviewed on I think it was Good Morning America or Regis and Kathy Lee or something like that. And they have her talk about it and they're like, let's show a clip. And it's the clip in the elevator where she's getting attacked. So they're making it look like a horror movie, but it's definitely way less horror than the original.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
not
it's
at all.
They weren't sure. They were trying to, their marketing team wasn't sure where they wanted to go with it. And I think that's why that's why it didn't capture as big of an audience as the first one.
But don't you think it's a tough movie to market anyway? I mean, it's let's be honest.
PG-13 is always a tough market to carve.
And and this movie is it's batshit crazy.
Yeah, it is. Oh yeah, it is.
So it's it's tough to market that to a mainstream audience.
Right. One thing though, I'm not sure if people realize, and because I used to have an argument about it, because there's two different versions of this movie.
Really?
Yes. The cut scene where the gremlins take over and rip out the film. Mm-hmm. There's two different sequences there. There's the sequence that was in the theater version, which was also on the version that you saw on HBO, and the version that eventually came out on DVD, where the usher goes into the theater and Hulk Hogan threatens the gremlins. That's not the way it was on the original VHS.
What was it?
I have it, and I will play it for you. And I think the reason that they did this was because, number one, they wanted to market it towards the home video market, but also I think because they didn't want to pay Hulk Hogan royalties for the home video release. But yeah, so here you go, and this can actually be found. I'm going to play this for you guys.
The break-in, sir, what happened? What happened? They fought back. That's what things. Stuff. I swear to God, young man, I will never hurt anything ever again. There's some things that man is not meant to displace.
He is a problem tenant.
Sir, please try and calm down.
We don't intend to renew your lease.
Just tell us what you saw.
Bunny rabbit.
Rustlers, hold it.
No.
Get the hell off my spread. Now, go on back to your own movie.
Hey, I bet that was Say, do you think that... Hey, could that have been a gremlin?
Well, I warned them. I don't need varmints on my ranch, and you folks don't need them in your TV sets. Let's start that movie up again.
Yeah.
I guess they had the rights to the John Wayne movie.
Well, it was a Warner Brothers movie. I'm pretty sure that was from True Grit or The Searchers or something. Not True Grit because he didn't say an eye patch. The Searchers or the Cattle Company. I always forget the name, or McClintock, something like that. Yeah, but yeah, that was the version that it's only available on the VHS. And
I'll let you guys discuss it because for some reason I'm not seeing the video. Hopefully it's recording on the.
Oh, it's recording. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not seeing it for whatever reason, but that's fine.
Oh wow, that sucks. Also, I'll like send you the link afterwards so you can see it. Yeah, but yeah, that was the version that, and I used to get in arguments at school because I'm like, no, they were having a shootout with John Wayne. They're like, no, it was Hulk Hogan, you fucking idiot. I'm like, no, and it's because I didn't see it in the theater.
I'd like to know why they dubbed over John Wayne's voice with another actor like that. If they had the rights.
I haven't. Because they wanted John Wayne to say the lines, but obviously John Wayne was dead. I'm almost positive. I forget where I read it, but as a favor, Kurt Russell came in and did that for Joe Dante.
That's funny. That's so funny. Wow.
But yeah,
I will say the Hulkster cameo really doesn't hit as hard as it once did, right?
Yeah, no shit. I mean, it wasn't hitting that hard in 1990 because he was already on his downward slope at that point before his renaissance in the late 90s. But no. So all right, Greg, why'd you choose the movie?
All right, so and apologies if you hear any banging or anything. I got a roof being built next door to my house.
No problem.
Okay, so going back to being a kid, sequels to me were always kind of fascinating, mainly because they were mostly just the same movie over again and not very good. There would be, there'd be some that were still good or kind of the same or whatever, but I, in my adult life, appreciate sequels that really just go in 180 degrees. Now, when I was a kid, I didn't, because I saw Ghostbusters 2 in the theater. I mean, not Ghostbusters 2. I saw Gremlins 2 in the theater.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like it. I have not seen it since then. So this is my first time rewatching it. I also saw there were other sequels that did the similar thing where they just went completely different. Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. Did not like it when I saw it. Love that movie today. Trying to think, Big Top Pee-wee, completely different, obviously, than the first movie. Although it's not really a sequel, it's just a character in a different movie. And I actually haven't seen that. It's funny, when Paul Rubens passed away, I said to my brother, I was like, "Is Big Top Pee-wee bad, or do I just remember it as bad because I loved, the first movie so much?"
I used to watch that shit daily on HBO when they had it.
Big Top Pee-wee.
Yeah.
I think the first 15 minutes of Big Top Pee-wee is pretty good. The rest of it, I don't care for.
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, I'd have to go back and watch stuff to, because I think, I think about movies wildly different now as I did as a kid anyway, but that's for another time. So yeah, sequels recently obviously have gotten better. Even legacy sequels, they pull off, Top Gun Maverick. I thought the new Beverly Hills Cop was pretty good. They're able to definitely toe a fine line in doing the same thing over again, but updating it enough, or changing it enough. But yeah, this obviously I remembered, and I thought so I didn't like it as much as a kid, probably because it wasn't quite like Gremlins, and I saw a couple of YouTube clips of it, and I'm like, wow, I got to see that again. And I did prepare to rewatch it like 5 years ago, and like the night I went to go watch it after watching Gremlins, like the night before, it was off Amazon Prime. So I'm like, well, I'm not paying. I got so many streaming services, whatever. I'll watch it another time. But watching Gremlins and Gremlins 2 again this past week, it's actually not as crazy that Gremlins 2 comes off of Gremlins, because if you watch the theater scene in Gremlins 1, that's kind of like laying some of the seeds for the second movie. I know obviously they take it up to another level with like the different Gremlins, and that's where the movie really gets batshit crazy. The brain and the spider gremlin and all that stuff. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the Key and Peele sketch where they talk about
everyone gets their own gremlin.
Yeah. Like it's I mean, this is just like you said, Joe Dante was given $50 million and he said, all right, I'm going balls to the wall.
Right.
I think I'm going to set a record. I think I might mention Texas Chainsaw Massacre every podcast, second time today. But if you've ever seen Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, they do something similar.
Yeah, they just go completely different direction.
They go a completely different direction. It was, Canon had the rights, and they, Toby Hooper was supposed to direct Spider-Man for them or some other stuff. And he finally was like, all right, I have a chance to revisit this property, and it's the last time I know I'm not going to be able to ever again. I'm going to lose the control of it. So I'm going to just do something that is completely crazy and, not like the first movie whatsoever, to where, they have the poster is, mimicking the Breakfast Club. And, there's a car chase with Leatherface. I mean, it's insane. Like it's an insane movie, but and it's nowhere near as good as the first movie, but I'd rather have that than redo Texas, just do the same thing where another group of kids go to the house and whatever else. So yeah, I mean, so this is definitely a big swing. I'm not surprised to find out about the budget and the return. Just like I said, I mean, if I didn't like it as a kid, maybe other kids were like, what is this? Because, it is definitely meta and just definitely a different movie. There are some similarities to the first one where they touch on, like there's the malfunctioning revolving door in the building, and it's just like his dad's inventions. Like much of the tech in the building doesn't work at all.
Yes,
even though it's this like sophisticated high rise. In fact, I liken Clamp Industries to like Vought Industries, or or even I don't remember the other one I had in mind, but it's weird too. It's such a crazy thing because it's like it's a high rise, but there's apartments and there's offices and there's TV studios and there's like a mall and like food court. It's wild. It is wild.
Yeah.
And it's funny you mentioned Trump, because I'm sure Joe Dante wasn't a Trump guy then. I'm sure he is not now.
He wasn't, but that's why he needed to, he was like, I'm going to base this character off of, a real estate mogul, but also a business mogul. And those two, Trump and Turner, were the two icons at the time who were swallowing up the media.
Yeah, this is a movie that I'm surprised Trump's not in, to be honest.
Guys, there's a scene. I don't know if you caught it or not, but there's a scene somewhere in the tower, like on one of the mall-looking food court places, where I think it's Christopher Lee comes out and says a line, and right behind him, a man walks by that you only see him kind of from the back of his head, but he's got the Trump hair that like comes forward. And I thought that's got to be deliberate, right?
So yeah, I looked at where they filmed it, and I know you guys probably know that Trump has a thing where if you film and if you film a movie in his building, he would have to make a cameo, whether they could it or not, because that's why he's in Home Alone 2.
Right.
But yeah, it's kind of crazy he's not in that movie. I would definitely say, knocking it right on the door. And as far as everything else, the only thing else I would say, it's kind of a throwaway, but I mean, I know he's trying to get a raise or a promotion. There's no way I'm passing up Phoebe Cates for a night to go hang with his boss. I'm not doing that. I don't know about you guys, but
See, I know everyone's got this crush on Phoebe Cates, but Haviland Morris in that movie, Marla, whew, Lord.
Well, I guess everybody's got their flavor. And the last thing, I did notice a bit of alien influence in both of Gremlins and Gremlins too. A lot of the hatched pods and everything.
Yeah.
Look, and the spider gremlin kind of has like an alien-esque design. And yeah, that is pretty much. I did. The Rambo gizmo thing is quite hilarious.
Yeah.
I think you could do a whole show based on that.
Right. Yeah. I like this was one of the first this movie was meta before meta was a term. And that's why it holds its place in history. And there's one other cameo. I always forget who it is, but it's when they're popping out of the toppings in the frozen yogurt and they're all standing there. And there's this old guy with like wild white hair and glasses. I forget who that is. It's like a friend of Joe Dante's or like an older producer or something who's like standing there. And I forget who it is. And like, I have to go back and look because like, he was like just credited as like onlooker number 5 or some shit.
You know what? There's a character in this, and in the first one too, Mrs. Futterman, who I never noticed this before. She always looked familiar, and I looked it up, and it's an actress named Jackie Joseph who played Audrey in the original Little Shop of Horrors.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Nice.
And we get Gomez Adams is a freaking janitor. Or like, I don't know if anyone remembers, there were times when he was the Riddler when Frank Gorshin wasn't available on Batman. Yeah.
Did not know that.
Yeah. There's a few episodes of Batman where it's the Riddler, but it's Gomez Adams and he's still got the mustache and everything.
Yeah. Not my favorite episodes.
That's the funniest thing about Batman. Like, the guy that played Joker, like couldn't even be troubled to shave his mustache.
Yeah,
it's so wild. Like they just did not care. It's crazy.
But yeah. So I mean, always good memories with this movie. Where are you? So if people want to find this right now, it is available to rent. It's not free streaming anywhere, but it is available to rent on Amazon Prime, on YouTube, Fandango at Home, Google Play Movies, and Apple TV.
It's free with ads on YouTube.
Oh, it is?
Yep.
Oh, last time I checked, it was just rental. But okay, so it's free with ads on YouTube.
Yep.
Or wait a second. I think when I did this, my bad. I think it's free on Prime too right now.
Yeah, it hops on and off Prime, which I don't even understand because it's a Warner Brothers movie, and why is it never on Max? Or I think it was on Max for a short time too. There's got to be some. They got to be paying some residuals to somebody they don't want to pay people to. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's Hulk Hogan. Because the streaming version is that. So they got to pay his ass. And they don't want to. Oh, boy. Okay, so then moving right along. No, where did you go? There you go. Get rid of that banner. So I guess it's time for my selection for the week. Let me find this, pull up the trailer. So my selection was the movie American Pop from 1981.
Zalmy should have been a star. The kid's a genius. But there were complications. Benny could have been famous, but life got in the way.
Well, it ain't no use to sit and wonder why, babe.
Tony had a brush with success,
You the one who writes the songs? Don't you know I'm nothing without you?
but had to let it go.
I want you to play one of my songs.
So it was up to Pete to grab it, hold it, and make himself heard.
Working on a night move, trying to make some front page driving news. Working on a night move.
One family.
Some music I love.
4 generations.
This isn't work. This is play.
In love. Whether you dance to it, drive to it, sing with it, or swing with it. If you can crank it up, plug it in, or switch it on, if it assaults your senses, rocks your body, or touches your soul. It's American pop.
So yeah. So going in tradition, I might as well just give my reasoning right off the bat.
Okay.
So I really love this movie. I think it's a movie that didn't get enough attention. And there's a reason for that. This movie actually shares something with your choice this week, Mark.
Oh?
Yeah. So this movie came out in 1981 in the theaters in a limited release, and it wasn't released on home video until 1998.
Oh, wow.
Because of all of the music rights that had to go into it, because Ralph Bakshi made a deal and got all the music for the movie for like $100,000, which was a steal. But then when they wanted to go mass distribution, that's when the problems came out. So yeah, so this originally came out in 1981, directed by Ralph Bakshi, starring Ron Thompson, Lisa Jane, Maria Small. It had a budget of $5 million, did a box office of $6 million. Yeah, the first time I saw the trailer, that particular trailer, was on my VHS copy of Fight Club. And I said, why have I never heard of this movie? Because I really love Ralph Bakshi. Wizards is one of my top, it's in my top 25 movies of all time. I think his version of Lord of the Rings doesn't get enough credit. He's obviously known for Fritz the Cat, for Cool World, all that stuff. He's the master of keeping rotoscoping relevant. He's still writing stuff to this day. And I was fascinated, and I was just like, and I thought it was a new movie, because I was like, I haven't heard of this. And I'm like, oh, Ralph actually came out with something new. And then I was like, wait, 1981. I remember it. And yeah, this was a jukebox musical before that term existed. Because you hear people using it now, and it's stuff like this. I wish it had gotten a home video release a lot earlier than that, because I could see a movie like this being used in music appreciation class in high school, just showing the transitions over the years. Just everything, there's just so many nuances to this movie that just really get to me. Just from the beginning, the portrayal of Russia in the early 1900s, and it was done as a silent film. It just fits beautifully. And it's amazing how much you can feel so much atmosphere of a period piece without a huge set and budget, just like with everything going in the background and the rotoscoping and the visuals. The acid trip sequence to this day still freaks me out. When he takes it and he ends up falling off the stage. Tony getting addicted to heroin after his injury is something that's sadly still happening 70 years later from the time that happened in the movie. And it goes to show how bad things have gotten in this country. But I honestly think Robert Zemeckis took some liberties with this movie's material when he made Forrest Gump, because it just feels like that.
Oh, I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see that.
And just the musical interludes to go from generation to generation, they just make the movie fly by. I remember I was just going to rewatch it again to take down my notes. I was like, oh, I'll just watch a little bit of it tonight and I'll finish tomorrow. And I just breezed right through it. I couldn't stop watching it. There's actually 2 cameos in this movie that I found out when doing research. The Beatnik poet when Tony's like there in the cafe was actually Bull from Night Court. It was Richard Mall. And the other cameo Mark's not going to be happy about. The band Fear appeared in the film. Lead singer Lee Ving acted under the name Lee James Jude. And the score was composed by Lee Holdridge. Yeah, Mark has no love for Lee Ving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I won't get into it.
We can get into it one day. It's funny because I just watched there's a new YouTube channel that's doing Saturday Night Live retrospects on every season. And it's being done by the guy, like a couple of writers who
I've been watching that. They got season 6 so far.
Yeah, and the season 6 one is like the band Fear had to be on because John Belushi asked for it as a favor. They wrecked the set, yada yada.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's just because of like all the music appreciation that I grew up with that like this movie just sticks with me. And to the point where like possessions.
Hey Mark.
Yeah.
Does my poster behind me enrage you since you are not a fan of Lee Ving? Or
what is that? Clue?
Clue?
Clue is fine. Clue's fine. He gets a pass for Clue.
Yeah.
I thought that's who it was when he said leave, and I said I think that's that guy's name, and I just looked at him like, yeah, that's him.
Yeah. But yeah, so me and Mark are both avid VHS collectors because it's a lost art. But I still have. Well, I actually just it's still factory sealed.
Ooh, oh, geez.
Yeah, copy of American Pop that goes on my shelf. Like that's how much love I have for this movie. I have the DVD. I have it obviously on my hard drive. So yeah, so that's going to stay sealed. But yeah, so what's y'all's opinions?
Greg, you want to go?
Sure, I'll start. So having seen this is the first time I've seen this. You're completely right about how fast it goes from period to period. That was my biggest problem with it at the beginning because I was like, what's happening? Like it didn't connect to me until about 10-15 minutes in. Like, oh, I see what we're doing.
Yeah.
Now I get it. Because at first I'm like, I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's happening. So I think, I think a second watch would definitely help in that aspect.
Yeah.
Because the first sound you hear is someone singing "I don't care, I don't care," and I kind of felt that way. I'm like, I don't care about this. But definitely, because I said I had next to no clue what happened narratively in the first 10 minutes. But then obviously when you start to really realize, I think if it were live action or maybe more recent animation, you might sort of understand quicker what's going on because the actors or the drawings would look a little bit closer, so you would I see it's this person 10-20 years later or whatever.
Yeah.
But no, I mean when I got into what it was, I was thoroughly enjoying it for sure. I mean, I love the music. I don't know if you guys noticed. You probably do. I mean, sure Joe does because he's watched it a million times. It has the original Blue Note recordings song that sampled Cantaloupe.
Yep, so, Cantaloupe Island. Yep.
Oh.
Yep. And I wrote. In fact, the soundtrack just absolutely rips. I mean, it's definitely great. Speaking of the music aspect of it, I watched this and I was like, why was Ralph Bakshi not a huge music video director?
Right.
So I looked it up and he only directed one music video.
Yep.
The Rolling Stones cover of Harlem Shuffle. So I watched it on YouTube and it's not great.
Yeah.
Because it's basically the band and then like there's animation in between it. Like that, I think they could have he could have rotoscoped the band doing the song.
Yeah.
It would have been like awesome.
Yeah.
So, because as far as Bakshi, I haven't seen Fritz the Cat. I almost bought it on a closeout Blu-ray for like $5 because I know what it is or whatever. I've never seen it, but I was like, I was interested. Let me see this. I didn't do it, but maybe I'll watch it. I remembered that Lord of the Rings movie when I was a kid and loving it. I rented it from a video store. Watched it a lot. It's only half the story, right? Do you know why they didn't do the rest?
Because
he ran out of money.
He was supposed to do it in 2 parts, and then they ran out of money, and they were like, "We don't want to do this rotoscoping stuff. We want to make it more for children." So that's why they gave Rankin Bass the duties of doing Return of the King.
Okay, yeah. So, so I remember liking that, and of course, Cool World is it was an unmitigated disaster. I don't know how it plays today. I haven't seen it since the theater. But I remember. My friend and I just being like, "This is terrible."
Yeah.
So
this movie and Wizards are tied for his best work in my eyes.
Yes. Yeah, I would check out a lot more of his stuff.
I've got a curated collection on the drive there.
Yeah, I'll definitely check it out. Great animation. Like I said, this soundtrack here is terrific. I did want to shout out the largest bowl of cornflakes ever poured. And one narrative thing. It's funny. There is a lot of sadness in this movie.
There is.
But beautiful sadness in some of it as well. And the one I highlighted was when the soldier finds the piano in the battle, and I said, well, he's going to die here. I know he's going to die, but actually tricks you because he didn't have to die. He could have killed the person that killed him before getting killed. And he doesn't want to. So beautifully tragic. I said a very valiant effort. I didn't think the execution fully worked, but that's only because on a one-time watch, I think knowing now exactly what it is, in having full grasp of it, I think I would even like it more. So definitely good pick. Really good.
Yeah, and you can on the further watches, you notice things like there's a musical cue every time you know that there's going to be the next tragedy that leads to the next generation, and that's when you start hearing as time goes by. Every time there's going to be the transition to the next generation because the previous one is going away. You hear it, and
you were totally right too about high school history or middle school history. Like this is a great sort of Cliff Notes version, like something interesting to watch. Just
I could see Mr. Shaw or Mrs. Erpolo pulling this out of during exams week for people to watch and just be like, pay attention.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. So what about you, Mark?
Well, I pretty much agree with everything that you just said, Greg. I think this movie is gorgeous to look at. The music is amazing. I had a little bit of trouble following what was going on because a lot of characters kind of come and go real fast. It's hard to connect to a character when they're only in a couple of scenes and you're trying to find a story, follow some kind of story. But so that was a couple points off for that. But it really is. There's some really beautiful moments in this movie, and I think my favorite one is the piano scene, and which you already brought up. So that's covered already. And I'm trying to see what else I had here for my notes. I had a little bit of a problem with the characters themselves. They were like the Tony guy. Yeah, I didn't like him. He was always agitated and always mad. And he's got some dialogue that is pretty bonkers. And I actually wrote it down, and I'm going to read you this dialogue.
Okay.
This is the scene where Tony he's in a cornfield in Kansas with a girl that he likes, and they're surrounded by corn.
Yep.
And he goes, "What is this stuff?" And she goes, "It's corn." And he goes, "This is the line.
Comes in a little white box of Bird's
Corn.
Eye.
It comes in a little white box from Bird's Eye. Corn. Kansas is corny. Can you eat it? Can you smoke it? Can you drink it? Can you lie in it? Then lie in it with me. I'll never eat corn again without thinking about you. Canned corn, candy corn, popcorn, Cracker Jacks. You're the prize in my box. And my box is this country. All tin foil on the outside, corn and sweetness on the inside." That's bonkers, you guys. And
It's bonkers, but that was him riffing. That was him riffing beatnik poetry.
Hey, Joe, to your Forrest Gump point, that maybe they borrowed some shrimp from some corn.
Yeah. So if you like that kind of dialogue and that appeals to you, then this is the movie for you. But I can't wait to watch this again. It was so beautiful to watch. The animation is really top notch.
Yeah. And just, it's and because like the certain, it's just like the tragedy after tragedy after tragedy with this family. And then when little Pete makes it, like, it's all worth it. And the fact that they just end on him making it and don't go further than that is beautiful, in the fact that it's like the cycle has been broken. Like, nothing bad's going to happen to this guy.
Right.
It gets to me every time. Just the moment he walks in, like at the end there, and like, they're like, "We'll give you one song." And he just starts busting out freaking Bob, and they have him.
Bob Skaggs.
Bob Seger.
Oh, Bob Seger. That's it.
Yeah. But it just shows like, the still frames of the producers in the booth. And then this tape just starts rolling behind them. Like, just that entire visual, like, it gets me every time.
Yep.
It's
some good stuff in this movie. Definitely.
There is just, I'm happy that I found it when I did. I wish I had seen it when I was a lot younger, because it was lost to time. It came out in the theaters briefly in 1981, and I was an infant. So I know, and then it's like other Bakshi stuff went on home video, but because of the music rights of this one, it was tied up in the courts for 17 years. And so, the time it came out, it was just like, oh, but I remember searching for it the moment I saw that trailer. The first time I watched my VHS of Fight Club, I searched for that movie, and I didn't find it. I didn't find it for a few years. I think finally the Hollywood Video in Southington got a copy in, and I was dumbfounded with it. And so then when I ended up working at the Hollywood Video in Waterbury, that copy magically went missing when I quit. The store was going to close anyway.
I'm sure they would have sold it to you for like $3.
Oh, they would have, but I mean, the store was on its way out as it was.
Yeah,
It shut down not too long after that. That was when like all of them were shutting down.
Huh.
So yeah, that's when I don't. Well, I think I still have the slats, but I don't have the connectors. I bought a library shelf from the Southington Hollywood Video, and that was in my apartment for the longest time. That's what I kept all of my stuff on. Yeah. But yeah, that's yeah. So yeah, it just happened to be coincidence that 2 weeks in a row it was movies I love that don't get enough credit that more people need to know about. But if people do want to watch this one, where are you? So it is available for free on Tubi currently, or it can be rented on Apple TV, Fandango at Home, Google Play Movies, and YouTube.
It's free on YouTube right now.
It is?
Yeah.
Oh, so I only found it for rent on YouTube. I gotta like check to see what's going on with me. But okay, so it's on YouTube and Tubi for free. But yeah, it's this is something though, because like the Blu-ray, it's you can tell I half want a 4K restoration, but I half don't, because I think the graininess adds to the character of the movie. Mm-hmm. So I think it should
Well, if it's done correctly, it'll keep the grain. It's when they DNR the hell out of stuff that.
But it's just it's the Bakshi rotoscoping. Like I can never get enough of it.
Yeah.
it's it's like I think I think if Disney wants a real renaissance again, like they should try rotoscoping again.
There's a lot of Richard Linklater does a lot of rotoscoping. Or I guess I mean I don't know if a lot. I mean he's done numerous rotoscoping.
Yeah. But yeah. So let's see. Let me see here. Take off that banner. All right. So that means we've gone through all three movies, which means, gentlemen, it's time to pick our next selections.
All right.
Poker faces, gentlemen. All right, Mark, what you got?
I have 2008's Dance of the Dead.
Okay. Greg, what do you have?
I have 1986's Cobra.
Stallone? Okay.
Yes.
And I drew (1973's) Ganja and Hess.
All right. Cool.
So those will be the selections for our next for our next episode in 2 weeks. I will put those in the library in a moment, gentlemen, and we will go from there. But yeah, anything anyone else got to say before we depart?
Don't think so.
Yeah. All right. Well then, I guess we will see y'all next time. Thank you for tuning in to Wildcard Cinema. See you next time.
Later.
Take care.
1, 2, 3.